So I'll say, okay, so the goal here, and we'll use the dentist again. The goal here is to get their butt into the operatory in a chair so you can look in their mouth. That's really the goal, right? Because after that, marketing's done. Now it's you. So they're like, right. All right. So what has to happen before that? Well, we have to get them we have to have them make an appointment. Okay. So now we go back one step and make the appointment. Now, how do they know they have to make an appointment? Well, they have to either go online or phone someone. So now you back up one more step. And then once you've got all those steps done to the point where you're putting an ad in front of someone who doesn't even know that dentist exists yet, now you go back the other way.
Welcome to the Business Ownership Podcast, brought to you by Awareness Strategies, helping you navigate the waters between entrepreneurship and ownership. Hey there, peeps. This is Michelle Nedelec, and I'm super glad to have you here with us today because I'm here with my most amazing guest, Richard. Richard, thank you so much for being here with us today.
My pleasure. It's great to be here.
Awesome. So give everybody the highlight of who you are and what you do for business.
So who am I? Well, I'm a lifelong entrepreneur. I've only ever had one job in my life where I worked for a paycheck. That was for a period of 9 months where I was helping a friend out, and I ran his business for him while he was building a new location because he was working as his own general contractor. And once he had completed that, we both agreed that I was essentially the worst employee he's ever had and
Nice.
unemployable. And therefore, it was time for me to step back out into my own. So I started working, my family, as you can tell from my last name, is Mennonite. So it's usual to put the kids to work at, the ripe young age of 12, which is what my parents did. And I've been either in a family business or my own business or in 100% commission sales my whole life. So essentially I've been, I eat what I kill. That's really what it comes down to. And it's led me to where I am now, which is with railgun marketing. And I've spent most of my life doing either initially sales and then into marketing. So unlike most marketers, I have a sales background, so I understand the dynamic between the two, which a lot don't. And I enjoy going into businesses where the owner is usually some sort of technician, like they are their business. They're a butcher, they're a mechanic, they're a plumber, or a professional like a lawyer, but they don't know how to market and they don't know how to make the transition from marketing into actually getting sales. So I love doing that. Every business has unique challenges. And the most fun is being able to take something that works in some other industry and moving it to one where it's not traditional, because most businesses tend to be fairly Amish within their industry. Like they look at, they look.
I have never had anybody say that on my show ever.
They don't look outside their community. So, if you're a plumber, you go and look at other plumbers' websites. You don't tend to go and look at a pediatrician's website, right? So everything they tend to give you is, well, I want you to do what this other plumber did. And I'm like, is he really successful? Well, not really. And then why do we want to copy him? So it's fun in a lot of ways. You tend to get a lot of pushback, which takes a while to get used to, because they're like, well, that'll never work in our industry. Has anyone tried it? No. Well, let's try it. Worst thing to do, we turn it off. And yeah, so that's what I do. And I you and I have known each other for a while. I love what I do, and I'm kind of unique in that niche. There's not a lot of people that have my background that have been self-employed their whole life that do what I do. So it's fun.
So let's just dive right into things, because you hit on a bunch of great points. One in particular is borrowing kind of best practices or things that have worked from other industries. And for those not in digital marketing, probably don't realize that for years now, SaaS, or software as a service, has honed in on almost an exact science for selling products online, because one, they're ingenuitive. Two, they create momentum before they've even sold their product, which is absolutely outstanding. And then 3, once they go to do it, they're keeping the data and the stats on what works, what doesn't, and they're constantly looking at that data in order to be able to perfect that system. So I'm going to give it over to you. Do you want to talk about the difference between traditional marketing and digital marketing, or do you want to talk about kind of specifically what makes digital marketing work well?
We could probably do both because they
Let's do it.
integrate so well. So, yeah, like I come from, so, and for those of you that haven't been able to guess from the gray, I've been around a little while. And given that I started as young as I did, I've, people kind of look like, how long have you been in business and selling? And well, 48 years. And they're like, how old are you? "Oh, I'm 60. It's like, oh, okay. So I came from a time when, advertising was, it was radio and newspaper and, that kind of thing, where there was no internet. It's, it just didn't exist.
It wasn't a thing.
So,
there were radio waves.
Yeah,
That's what we heard.
there was a time when like, oh, look, we got an email. It's like, oh my God. Now I get, 600 a day. I'm like, damn email. It's just like, but the interesting part is the fundamentals have not changed. They are exactly, you still have to have messaging that is very similar to what we had in 1981. So the difference that digital has done is it has allowed you to eliminate a whole ton of waste. For example, we used to have, we would run a full page ad in the yellow pages, and that was great. But if you got that ad wrong, you were stuck with it for a year because you can't just go change it. And whereas with digital, like your yellow pages now are Google. And if that page isn't performing, you go in and you make an adjustment, and in 5 minutes, the new one's up. It's great because digital will give you the data and the insight that you need to say, all right, so now I don't have a yellow page, I have 2. They're now called landing pages. And we will split the traffic. We'll send, 1,000 people to page A and 1,000 people to page B. And then we look at the results and we say, hey, page A is significantly outperforming page B. So page B is out, and now we're going to test A against C. And you're always testing for those winners. And it's so much easier now to do, but most businesses are still stuck in the, I need a blank, whatever that is. Like, I need a website. Okay, that's really broad. What is it specifically about do you want in the website? And typically they'll talk about their product, their services, what they do. It's about them. I went to this school. I've got this degree. We have these products from this manufacturer. Very few take the approach of, here's how we can help you. We solve this problem for you. We can get rid of that aggravation for you. We can help you grow your wealth this way. It's more, so you have to turn it around so that you can really start to grow those businesses. And that it takes a real significant paradigm shift for most business owners, because they all tend to get hung up on their thing, whatever their thing is. Digital makes that far, far easier. And the data that you can accumulate, if you set things up properly, makes it so that you make really, really good decisions going forward. And I'm sure you've heard of it, but there's the saying that, little hinges swing big doors. And if you have, if you go from say 100 people see your ad and one of them respond, versus you do a little tweak and now you get 2 of them to respond. Well, you didn't increase your end result by 1%. You increased it by 50. Like you've doubled it. You essentially you've got it's a huge increase. And that's something that digital allows businesses to do that they couldn't do years ago. Or if they did, you had to be a really big business because it was really expensive. Now it's cheap. It's really cheap to do it. A little bit of investment up front, but then ongoing, it's cheap investment. I think you muted.
You surprised me. There was a whole train of thought that I thought you were going down and going, okay, Anne. Going,
I do that. I just run out of words.
all good. We don't have to pay for them. It's all good. You get as many as you want. Awesome. So when you're working with somebody, is there usually kind of is there a process that you take them through? Do they need to have some prep work done ahead of time? How does your process work?
Usually all I ask them to do is send me what they're doing, so I can go through it. And a lot of times I'll play prospect. Like I'll go onto their webpage and I'll fill out the contact form or ask for the newsletter. Um, this is going to sound really bad, but most of the time I'm pleasantly shocked if someone reaches out to me, or if I actually get a newsletter, because rarely do I get one. Um, that's the biggest thing, is to look at what they've got first, and then see where the gaps are. And I refer to it a lot as most businesses have a huge amount of half-built bridges. They go halfway across the chasm and then you fall off. And that's so the process for me is, and I'll say, okay, what we ask what they're doing. We're running Facebook ads. Okay, show me the Facebook ad. And I see the Facebook ad, and then they'll show me that, and then I'll click it. And it'll take me and I'll give you a great example, because it's a local dental office here. And they wanted to increase their dental implant business. Okay, great. Let's see the ad. So they had a really good ad. And I clicked the ad, and it went to the homepage of their website, which curiously did not have the word implant on it. And I'm like, okay, so if I get to this page and I'm showing them the page, what do I do here? And they go, well, you need to do this and this and this. And okay, if I don't call you, how do I know what to do? And then the lights started to go on, and I realized you're making way too big of a jump here. You're going from, I have no clue who you are, to book an appointment.
To take this tunnel down around the corner with the bright light at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and literally it's like, hey, welcome to our website, please take the red pill. And I'm like, no, you can't do that. Most people will take the blue pill and leave. That's so it's the first step is always going through that process. Okay, so and a lot of times you have to do it backwards for them, because if you do it forwards, they jump too far all the time. So I'll say, okay, so the goal here, and we'll use the dentist again. The goal here is to get their butt into the operatory in a chair so you can look in their mouth. That's really the goal, right? Because after that, marketing's done. Now it's you. So they're like, right. All right. So what has to happen before that? Well, we have to get them we have to have them make an appointment. Okay. So now we go back one step and make the appointment. Now, how do they know they have to make an appointment? Well, they have to either go online or phone someone. So now you back up one more step. And then once you've got all those steps done to the point where you're putting an ad in front of someone who doesn't even know that dentist exists yet, now you go back the other way and you say, okay, so they've been on your landing page and you're giving them the 7 things they need to know, 7 things that 60-year-olds need to know about dental implants offer. If they're there, what do you do if they don't get that offer? And they're like, well, what do you mean? Well, people are going to come to that page. They're going to see the offer. They're going to be like me. They're going to be 60 years old. They're going to need an implant, but they're not going to fill out the little form to get the information that you're offering. What do you do with them then? And that's when they have no idea. And that's where you have to explain, all right, here's where we talk about retargeting, which is where we're going to take a little pixel. We're going to pixel them on your website so that now you can track them around, because really you want to get that first person data where you can communicate with them directly via email or postcard or phone call. But if you don't, there's the second tier information where you can say let's say they came from a Facebook page, and if they don't ask for that form, you now say to Facebook, hey, all these people that saw this page but didn't get the PDF or whatever that were offered, or they didn't watch the video, start showing them this series of ads. And none of them do it. And it's always a shock to them. And they give you that look of like, we can do that? And I'm like, yes, you can do that. And it's legal? Yes, it's legal. It's like, well, what if they find out? they're not going to find out. It's like,
Well, you want them to find out because that's the whole
you,
point, is that they want you and
yeah,
you want them. That's
yeah.
how do you get
I'll
together?
clarify. You want them to find out about your business. You don't want them to find out that you've been pixeling them. So there's
Is there
some of them
anybody
get a
out there
little,
that doesn't know that at this point? I mean, at this point,
yeah,
I think most people get it, that as soon as they,
somehow. Yeah.
I mean, the freaky part to me is when you start talking about something and then all of a sudden you start to see the ads. That's not about pixeling, that's about something
Yeah.
else.
Yeah, well, and especially now because the different media are making it much more difficult to narrow down specific people. So it is anonymized a lot better than it was in the beginning when you could narrow it down to one person.
Oh, come on. Let's be honest. All this has done is stop small business from getting you. Big business is still getting exactly where you are and how
Oh
you're
yeah,
doing it and where you're doing
yeah,
it. So don't
yeah,
kid yourself on that one. The
yeah,
data is still the data. If
yeah,
your Google
and
phone knows where it is somewhere, Google
yeah,
knows where it is.
yeah, absolutely.
Period.
And but again, we got to grow to get to that point where we can afford to access that data. But that's
There's that.
ultimately the long-term goal. But that's usually the process for us. And then what we do, and you've seen how we map them out, is we literally graphically, because most business owners have trouble picturing this web in their head. So we take that web that they have described and we make it in a two-dimensional graphic, like a flow chart, so they can actually see where all these things are, and they can now see where the holes are, and which is the big one. They can identify where people are literally falling into the trash can, which is what's happening with their prospects. So
Nice. I love it. Because a lot of times when people talk about we always talk about knowing your ideal client's ideal journey. And most people don't have a clue what that means, and certainly don't have a clue how to get them there. And when it comes to kind of strategic changes to a website like this, a lot of times I find that the C-suites will go, okay, we don't want any fundamental changes, just change what you need to. And it's like, no, we need fundamental changes because this isn't working. Like you need to be a part of this because this is a business decision. It's not just, I'm going to change, colors on your website.
yeah,
That's not what we're talking about here, because fundamentally, to understand who is your target market and who are you addressing, one could mean building out more landing pages, because you don't necessarily want somebody that's 60-year-old that needs dental implants going to your homepage. And you have the opportunity after that to go, oh, okay, so is there a difference, like just saying, in this, using this as an example to carry on, is there a difference between a 60-year-old and a 40-year-old or a 20-year-old or a 90-year-old? And if so, who's then the next market? Is there a next market, or is this kind of 80% and you're not worried about it? And now we're going to go on to, Invisalign or something like that they offer. So in understanding how fundamental these decisions are to a business, I think it's really important that people understand that it is a business decision.
yeah.
You need to be involved in this with the right people. If somebody's not asking to bring on the CEO, I think it's probably not using all your money in the best way possible. My opinion.
Well, that's when two problems happen. And one of it is you're now relying on, as in my perspective, I'm now relying on an employee to have to explain to whoever they answer to what we want to do. And there's no way I can impart all the knowledge they need to know to answer questions that a C-suite executive is going to ask. It's just not possible. And as a result, what happens is they don't get anywhere near the results that they ought to get for the money that they're spending. And it's frustrating beyond belief when they're like, no, we only want to do this. And it's not going to work as well as it could if you could get access to the right person to say, look, here's why this is a bad idea. And here's how you could, for very little expense change, and usually it's zero in a lot of cases, here's how we could significantly improve this for you. But you have to be able to get access to them. And I get it. Executives are busy. There's, it's just the nature of, when you're running a business, you're always feel like something's on fire. But part of dealing with those fires is putting in a fire suppression system, and you have to make the decision to do that. So yeah, it's critical to get your ultimate decision makers involved. And it's especially with larger businesses, if you get to the point where there's now 10 plus employees, and I always use the number, it's roughly 250,000 revenue for employees, so you're looking at a $2.5 million business or up. There's always going to be, in that business, there are going to be people who can not make a decision to say, yes, we want to do this, but they can definitely say no. So for example, if the sales manager, who has no decision-making process, over the whole thing, says, no, I don't want to do this, then it's dead. Like they can't say yes, but they can definitely say no. And you have to be able to identify who those people are, so that you can keep them in the process. And at least if you can get them on side, they can't say yes, but they won't use that veto that they have. So it's you have to really understand all that dynamically as to how all that works inside a particular business. It's tricky. It takes a while to get the hang of it, because all of a sudden, if you don't, all of a sudden out of somewhere you go, yeah, we're going a different direction, and everything seemed to be going great up until that point, but somebody got their nose out of joint.
Yep, and that's where the danger point is. So what are some of the obstacles that somebody might be having in the business when they're not optimizing their website, they're not getting the lead generation that they wanted? What else might be a problem that they might be thinking, oh, Richard, I need you so bad?
The biggest one I see, again, is they talk more about their product or service, instead of thinking about, and we always call it the moment. If I'm going to be looking at your product or service as a potential prospect, when I sit down at my computer, or I pull out my phone and I open Google, what is my mindset at that moment? What am I typing in, and why? And if you can unpackage that, okay, so I'm trying to think of it. So if you think of it in terms of, let's say, buying a vehicle, well, the first moment is you're driving. Well, I'll give you a great example. So I drive a 2020 Mustang, and I'm starting to see the new 2024s, which are the redesigned one on the road. So the first thought for me is, hey, those new Mustangs look pretty good. That's the real base level one. I'm not at the point yet where I'm thinking about changing mine. And then I'll see them a little more, and I'll say, I really like that color. And then it's, there's a lot of stone chips on the front of mine, and the tires are worn out, and it's going to start needing maintenance. And at each one of those steps, you're at a different moment. You're moving closer and closer and closer to a buying decision. And if somebody were at a car dealership, actually would think about how to bring prospects into their system 9 months before they get to the point where they're going to, like, the Mustang website and looking, at the configurator where they can, I want these wheels and this color and this engine, that kind of thing. And they had a way to start bringing those prospects in ahead of time. You'd have a very, very successful dealership. But that's not the car dealers are always like, buy right now, come on in this weekend, we'll give you a free barbecue and a TV and some other stuff just for taking a test drive. You're only getting the very bottom of the funnel there. Like, you're not getting, they totally ignore the top of the funnel, which is insane. Fortunately, they all do it the same way. So they're all, and they should all have it on their logo. We're no worse than anybody else. I'm like, well, that's a really great motive. But it's that moment, like, where, I'm going to use my dad as a great example. So before my dad passed away, he was thinking of spending a lot of money getting a full the dental implants, or the dentures on the implants, because it was $45,000 he was looking at spending. And my dad's in his late 70s. I'm like, hey, great. If that's what you want to do, by all means, go for it. I'm just curious, like, why now? Why are you thinking of doing this? And because of my dad's diet and teeth and everything else, like he typically, like he'd have soup and soft things, like soft boiled eggs and that kind of thing. And he's like, I really want to, enjoy a steak and a hamburger. I'm like, okay, well, great. Go for it. And his health deteriorated. He never did get it done. And then 2 days before he passed away, I was up in the hospital and we were talking to him. And I said, so you talked about doing this. And like, we got on the topic and I said, what was that really the reason? And he knew the end was coming. There was he was terminal. And he said, no, it wasn't. The real reason was, because I had asked him, I said, we always have like family dinners for like Easter and Christmas, and you rarely, if ever, come to any of these things. You don't see your grandkids, you don't see your great grandkids, which he had. I'm like, what's going on? And it turned out that the reason he was thinking of getting all the implants done was he felt very uncomfortable going to family dinners and not being able to eat with us.
Aww.
And so if that was the moment that actually made him think, I need to do this. Now, I never figured it out until obviously it was far too late. Okay. Otherwise, I'd have said 10 years before, like, you're not coming to dinner because you can't, we have turkey and you got to have like a glass of goo. Get this done. And I would have encouraged, but there's always those really, really deep and almost always emotional, psychological motivations that are going to drive the decision to buy a product or a service, and they will always be backed up with logic. But the core decision will almost always be emotional. And as business owners, it's incumbent upon us to figure out what are those key motivations. So, flipping to another client we worked with, which another different dentist. Pre-pandemic, we did a lot of dental offices, and there, the one that we tapped into was they wanted to get new patients in, and one of the ways we figured we could do this was to we would offer brides and talk about their wedding pictures and everything else, and we wanted to give them a free whitening if they brought the bridal party in. So they got theirs done for nothing in the bridal party, because you want all the bridal party to have nice white teeth too. So we gave them a deal and everything else. But then once they got the rest of the wedding party in, well, now these are people who have now been exposed to their practice. And we had a very robust follow-up process in and treated them like gold so that they would leave the practice they're at and come to theirs. And they did really, really well with that campaign, because they use the psychological need for the bride to have really nice wedding pictures to get a whole bunch of people in, because nobody wants to upset the bride. So, and it worked.
Smart people.
Because we tapped into that psychological want to have great wedding pictures. Right. So that's always the part that is really hard to deal with our clients, because most of the time they don't know that real deep level. They know the superficial one. My background, when I started, my parents owned a power sports business. So we sold fishing boats, snowmobiles, Sea-Doos, toys for men that burned gas and made noise. And if you really think about it, and this is in Winnipeg, okay? So you got 5 months of summer to use your $55,000 fishing boat. There is no way that you can justify on a price per pound of the fish you catch for the price of the boat. Like, it's way, you could go to Costco and
you can buy gold for cheaper.
Fish, it would still be cheaper. Yeah. So for me, when I started really thinking about selling, when I'm selling a fishing boat and, man comes in, like, do you have kids? Yeah. Do you plan on do you plan on bringing your kids fishing in? Yeah. So I'm just curious, is is this a way for you to, you said your son's 16, he's not coming to the lake. Is this a way for you to be able to spend time with him on a one-to-one? Yeah, it is. That was the key. We didn't sell the damn boat. We sold rebuilding the relationship with the kids.
Nice.
And, you can't see it. I got a really big award right up here from, 1989 when we were the #1 boat dealer in Canada, because we tapped into the emotions and sold those. We didn't worry about, it's made of 063 aluminum and it's got 12,000 rivets and it's got enamel. Nobody cares, right? It's why are you going out fishing in the first place?
Well, and I think too, there's a little bit of a nuance there, especially with this one. So some people will go, oh, you're just selling boats, but you're not. Because I think anybody who ever had a boat as a kid, those are the memories that they remember. And in order to get sucked into going to the lake with, especially with all the mosquitoes and crap that was going on, like there had to be this other side to it. And it's almost like it's the salesperson's responsibility to create those images and have you fulfill that dream so that they can articulate that to their kids effectively, so that they're not talking about, how many rivets are in the boat. They're talking about the experiences that are going to happen, so that the kids get out of the idea of, oh my God, this is going to be mosquito infested. I'm going to hate my life. I don't want to do this crap.
Yeah. And, and it sounds manipulative, and the reality
I
is
think
it
it sounds
is.
awesome, actually.
It like sales is manipulation, but there's also the intent component.
Mhm.
If I, as a salesperson, am going to use manipulation tactics to have you do something that I know unequivocally is going to have your kids 15 years, 20 years, and I still have my kids talk about it, decades later, saying, do you remember when we were at Grand Beach and you took us all out on the sea?
Right?
And I was talking to my eldest daughter about it, and I don't remember it at all, but she does. They remember stuff I can't remember.
Oh yeah.
And it is, and they talk about it, and it's a beautiful, fond memory for them.
Yeah.
For me, it was just another day. So, but those were well worth it, every single one of them. And had I, you take a business that I wasn't in. So years and years ago, I bought a Jeep, like a Jeep, like, take the doors off Jeep. And I took my twin girls out to, so Winnipeg has basically a giant flood ditch around the east side of the city. And during the summer, it's empty. So we took the Jeep down into this giant floodway, and I let the girls learn how to drive down there, because there's no cars, there's no roads, there's nothing. And my daughter Erica was, when the last time I went to Winnipeg, she was talking about this day we spent in the Jeep.
Yeah.
I thought the Jeep was the dumbest thing I'd ever bought till that moment. It was like expensive. It was hard to drive. It was uncomfortable, and it created memories for my girls that I cherish. So it's that part of the sales process that most businesses get wrong. They don't realize what how deep some of those services and thoughts go. So
I love it. And so many businesses need to know what those are, because it really doesn't matter if you're selling 2x4s or tech. Everybody buys emotionally, and if you know what those stories are, you can tap into those stories. It makes a huge difference. So I know our listeners are going to want more from you. How did they start that journey with you?
Easiest way is by email. So it's simple. It's richard@railgunmarketing.com.
Say that really slowly. Richard at
railgunmarketing.com.
Nice. So where I got to ask you the story, where does railgun come from?
Okay. I actually get that a lot. So years and years ago, 1992 to be exact, this is when we had the power sports business. My family, one of the things we sold were Skidoo snowmobiles. So it's February of 1992, and Skidoo has announced that they are going to be introducing the new model year lineup in Edmonton in February. Normally, my mom and dad, who owned the dealership, would go. They looked at where it was. They said, Edmonton in February. Hell no, we're going to Cozumel. You're going to Edmonton. So off I went to Edmonton. And Skidoo had their keynote speaker, and and the guy's name was Dan Kennedy.
Wow.
That was where I met Dan.
Nice.
So, like an idiot, because I'm not supposed to do anything there, I'm just like supposed to attend. I bought all Dan's stuff, like everything, right? Company credit card, I bought all Dan's stuff. All comes, and of course, you know, if you've seen the old Dan stuff, it's horrible. Like, it's like photocopies of photocopies of photocopies. It's, you know, cassette tapes, the labels fall off. It's just, you know,
the content is gold.
It's pure gold, right? So the month after, my mother gets the visa bill for the company, and she's like, "What is this?" And I told her what it was. We told you not to buy anything when you're, no, I want to see it. So she sees it, and she just glances at it. Of course, it looks like garbage, right? Send all this stuff back. I'm like, okay, no problem. So I pack it all up. I put it in the back, because I know what's going to happen the next month. When she gets next month's visa bill, she's going to look at the charges. She's not going to look for missing returns. So I kept it. And I started using all Dan's stuff. I joined all of his masterminds. And at one point, I was one of his, when he was still involved, I was one of their independent business advisors. And that was how I launched off into this. I got really good at doing what we did. Mm-hmm. And then...
but what does that have to do with railgun?
And so that's where I was going.
Yeah.
So you remember Dan's thing is magnetic marketing.
Yep.
Right? And something else that Dan says is essentially is sniper rifle, not shotgun. Right? So don't spray your message out. Pick a certain thing and do it. So a railgun is essentially a magnetic rifle.
Oh. Okay. So for those of us who aren't familiar with all the boy toys, we will get that.
Yeah. So awesome. The railgun uses magnets. It doesn't push the projectile. It uses magnets to literally pull it out. So I thought, well, okay, so magnetic marketing, we want to attract clients to us. There's the magnet side, and sniper rifle, not shotgun. So it's a railgun.
Nice. That's awesome. Still talking about boy toys before we leave this one, I still have fantasy. Every time I go past a kind of a roadway construction site, I always want to get in and drive a Land Rover or the boy toys are they look like so much fun.
Yeah, they are.
They're the best.
Yeah, they are. I've over the funny thing about, you know, people ask, like, you know, I literally spent 25 years in the boat business.
Yep.
And to the point now where, do I have any desire to have a boat? Nope. But the thing with the marine business particularly, when things don't work, you're messing with people's holidays. The stress level is almost unbearable some days. Oh. You know, it had nothing to do with us. You know, they'd be out at, you know, Lake of the Woods in their boat, and they'd run the thing over a reef and shear the bottom of the drive off. Okay, well, you hit a rock. You know, they took the propeller right off of it, but it's our fault that we can't fix it in like 15 minutes and get them back on their holidays. And
you now have a $50,000 canoe.
Yeah. And, you know, and then, you know, you get the ones where, you know, we were at fault. I had one of my guys bringing a client's boat back from Ontario, and, you know, it's 10 at night. He's coming back. He's about 80 miles from Winnipeg, and he hit a deer. And the client's boat went rolling down the ditch, like sideways, and it just totally destroyed it. You know, we had insurance. It's a deer. You know, nobody told the deer to jump in front of the truck. So
it's going to take 3 months to get you a boat.
Yeah, but now it takes, and if you try and order a boat in June, it'll get there in October. So, it's like, what
in
do you do?
Winnipeg. Super useful.
So it is a very stressful business. And it's
that explains why you can handle the stress of digital marketing tech, because let me tell you, people get very upset when their tech doesn't work. So, there's a typo. Like, it's okay. You can still read it.
Well, and I'm sure you've had it too. It's like, we can't launch the site yet. Our logo's not ready. Nobody is going to buy or not buy your products or service because it's got the wrong shade of green in the logo.
Sure you. That was awesome. Richard, I could talk to you all day long. You have been absolutely awesome. So any last words for our peeps?
The big one is stick to basics. Don't jump on every new thing that comes along. I see that so often. It's like, hey, we need to be on TikTok. You sell hearing aids. You don't need to be on TikTok. There's just, if you've got it, as business owners, we tend to get tired of our stuff a lot sooner than the market does. So, and you went back to about digital and knowing your numbers. If your marketing is profitable and it's working, don't mess with it. Like, just tweak it, keep improving it. You'll get tired of it long before the market will.
Absolutely. I love it. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. I know how valuable it is.
Yeah. Thanks, Michelle. This has been this has been fun. Thank you.
Awesome. Peeps, this is Michelle Nedelec. Thank you for being here with us today. Be sure to subscribe to the show and share it with your friends. We love helping entrepreneurs grow.
Are you running a business over 7 figures but still struggling with technology headaches? Pay attention, you do not want to miss this offer. This podcast episode is brought to you by Awareness Strategies, who is offering a custom-built digital adoption roadmap for anyone running a business over 7 figures who's wanting to grow their business in the next 5 years. And it's not just a roadmap, they offer full implementation as well if that scares the out of you. Check out awarenessstrategies.com/roadmap for more details today. The link's in the show's notes. Don't regret not doing this. Do it now. That's awarenessstrategies.com/roadmap.